Good afternoon. I'm Rocío Álvarez Osorio, teacher of the Master of Entrepreneurial Innovation and the director of EAE Lab, the place that we are here. Welcome to the EAE Entrepreneur Experience, a program that addresses all aspects of entrepreneurship. I take this opportunity to extend a cordial greeting to all of those who are joining for the first time, and especially to those who are seeing this cycle from different parts of the world. As you know, the EAE Entrepreneurship Experience is an initiative promoted by the Alumni Association, a project of the school that offers 5 large areas of services to students and alumni in training and knowledge, professional development, networking, benefits, and discounts. How a venture capital choose in which startup to invest is the 5th session, and we will talk about key aspects to analyze an investment opportunity, the importance of having a good team, the size of the market, and another important information to consider in the business phase of a startup to be chosen by a venture capital fund. To talk about this topic, we have the presence of Anindya Saha. Welcome, Anindya, who is partner and founder of Nero Ventures. Welcome, Anindya, and we are going to start with the interview. Okay? Anindya Saha is the founding partner of Nero Venture. How did you start in the world of investments?
Well, it was actually by accident, I will say, like many other things in life. So I was working for much bigger transactions in Ernst & Young, EY, and in quite a few projects. I used to work for smaller projects, and there what I got, which was really attractive for me, is the daily challenges and the personal involvement, right? So one thing that was very curious for me here, that to be a leader, you need to lead by example, and you really have to be a facilitator. So it's not the position that matters. You have to facilitate the team and help them establish their goals. So I guess that was the first time I learned it's not the position in your company, but a leader is in fact a server. So that was quite attractive for me.
Mm-hmm. And what attracted you to venture capital entrepreneurship?
Well, one of my, from small companies, it was one of the things that I got an opportunity to manage IES's venture fund for almost 3.5 years, and it was also almost a starting point for me in the sector, an incubation period. And I mean, the technology companies that I worked with, I really loved them. There are a few companies that we got an exit. A few of them are quite big now. I saw the struggles of the entrepreneur. We had to close down 2 companies. So life seemed, or at least my professional life seemed much more real. So that way this thing was very attractive for me, and that's how I started my journey as an investor.
Mm-hmm. And being of Indian origin, why did you decide to stay in Spain to found Nero Ventures?
Here I would say it's the people and the culture. It's always, frankly, I mean, this is my second career traction here in Spain, and I really love the people and culture here. And if I introspect, I mean, if we see from outside, there's a lot of difference between both cultures, but from now that I have stayed for more than a decade here in Spain, there's not much difference, and there's quite more similarities than difference. And also from a business perspective, I would say the Spanish entrepreneurship sector is in its infancy. So it is barely 20 years old at max. So there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that can be done in this sector. Mm-hmm. And that was very attractive for me. I was starting my journey, and the entrepreneurship sector in Spain was in infancy. So, well, it's been 9 years now, and we have both grown together, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And what is your opinion of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Spain?
like I said, it's still in its infancy. While in the last few years, 4 or 5 years, there have been good news and we are growing, and all I can say is all the actors, we should work together more closely. We should put our, now is the time we should put our head down and focus on the work and achieve our targets, because in the end in the European Union and effectively the world will take notice when we do good things and bigger things every year. So I would say in its infancy, and let us work together more closely and put our head down and get back to work.
And how do you see the alternative financing sector evolving in Spain compared to other countries?
I guess by other countries you mean European Union, Rocio?
For example,
yes,
or maybe United States too?
Well, United States is quite far off for now, and within the EU, like I said, we're still in our infancy and from the Spanish sector, but we are growing very fast. So from 2015 there has been a significant jump in the number of investments, and more so the average investment, the amount invested in the country. While a lot of international funds have are now actively investing in Spain, or some funds are just now, probably last year they did their first big investment in Spain, but Spain is not yet still not a country that will be the first bet for many bigger investment funds, and we need to make that as a target, right? So Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona, all of them are growing heavily in the past years. But having said that, let us put things in perspective. We are almost between, I would say, a range between 5 to 10 times lower in terms of investments and in deal flow, in the number of deals as compared to London or Berlin or Paris. So there are, we have a lot of room to grow. So we are growing very rapidly, but we do have a lot of room to grow.
And what are the challenges facing in this sector?
Like every other sector, any sector in its initial stages, and there is a lot of challenges that involves and a lot of opportunities, and they both go hand in hand. I would say that which I have seen in the past years, there is a lot of noise in the sector. That we have lots of consultants, lots of gurus, and sometimes I feel it might be, at one stage it might be really confusing for entrepreneurs, with so much noise around, right? So I guess this will die down over time, and with the sector maturing. Like I said again before, we need to collaborate more. I think, or I see that entrepreneurs tend to collaborate more, but from investors, being big or small investors, all of us need to collaborate more. So collaborate more in transactions, and co-investment is good, sharing and helping others is good, right? So another aspect would be the government of Spain. The government of Spain needs to understand much more in detail of what entrepreneurship and the venture capital sector is about, or what is the pain points of the sector. There has been much bigger voices who has been claiming this or requesting the government in the past few years. It has to be in administrative role. A small example: an administrator of a startup is not equivalent in responsibilities to the administrator of Telefonica or a much bigger company. So why the requirements would be similar? So it has to match and also on the taxation side, the taxation norms has to adjust more to the sector. And another aspect would be, as investor group in general, I'm not just including here venture capitalists, people who are more active in our sector, or business angels. I would say for rich individuals, investors who are looking investments, investing in small companies, venture capital has to be they have to get into the mindset that it's part of our portfolio. If that doesn't happen, it's very difficult to boost the private investment sector, the private equity sector in Spain. So we are still a very, very small part of the entire investment portfolio. We don't want to become a major part, but we want to be a bit more. And people who are investors who are not yet thinking of this sector, there are companies who are now giving much bigger returns. There are, let's say, from 2014, 13, I mean, Series A was 10, 20 million Series A rounds were unheard of. Now it is becoming much more common, right? So we are a small early stage fund, but two of our portfolio companies have done Series A and quite successfully in the same range I was mentioning. Another aspect would be, and here I would compare to the US or the more developed countries, to look at institutions in the years to come, I think should have a much more active role in the sector, be it in working with startups, being it investing in startups. So it like in the US, it's in the States it's quite common that institutions work very closely. Big companies work very closely with startups from both sides, investments, being clients of startups. There's not this attitude or this principle of us versus them doesn't exist. In my personal opinion, and please understand it's all my subjective opinion, till now in Spain this us versus them exists, and we need to work towards working more closely and collaborating.
Okay.
So I touched many aspects. I mean, I don't know, Rocío, you have been also, you are an entrepreneur, you have been in this sector. I hope you tend to agree that collaboration is important.
Sure, it's fundamental. It's fundamental. Okay. And when an entrepreneur wants to start a new business in Spain, here, what kind of alternative financing exists in the market for a startup, and where can the entrepreneur find it?
I would say the first step has to be friends, family, and followers, or some say fans. So I wouldn't say fools. I do not call it fools, because I assume that, and I know in few cases that they already know what the risks are. So they just want you to take the initial steps, and you need to find the financing from inside your close circle first. And then of course you have in parallel there's a very good public system here, which you have ENISA in the national level. They give a loan, they give a participative loan, which is quite relaxed in terms of conditions. Then you have regional public actors like Instituto Català de Finanzas in Catalonia, you have Instituto Valencià de Finanzas, you have el de Donostia, Guipúzcoa, in Andalusia. So all over Spain there are regional actors to accompany in the first initial rounds, where the company has much higher risk, right? So and then comes a very well-tied system, which is gradually, I think it's gradually becoming much more efficient, much more proactive, is the business angel network. You have ISE BAN, you have ESADE BAN, and then now we have EAE Invierte, no? EAE Invierte, which in one way or the other, Rocío and I, we are involved. So of course there are different aspects, and after that would come early stage funds, and then you have venture debt, Series A funds. But in the early stage ecosystem, I think Spain is doing a very good job. I mean, more can be done, but they're doing very good job, and really thanks to the business angels, they have lost a lot of money, but more so they have supported so many good companies in their initial stages. And a lot of the big successful companies today in their first initial steps had a business angel or an initial early stage investor maybe the metrics were not there, it was more emotional, it was more of a connect, but they had those early stage investors without whom funds like ours, an early stage fund, or like Nero Ventures, or other big players would not have been there. So really they have done a very good job.
Okay. And do you think there is an investor profile for each type of entrepreneur?
Yes, and I would say yes and no. It's more of a people profile. I mean, like Rocio, when I discuss with you, you always insist a people match has to happen, right? So this is so key because be it in a team, in the end an investor is also forms part of the team. It is not just that a startup takes the money and it's just not just a transaction, right? So I would say it's more of a people match, because if there is no fit, and in many occasions there is no fit, if there's no fit, then it's better not to do the deal. So but if you know that there is a minimum match and you have a connect on the principal side, then always there will be ups and downs. I mean, one day can be good, another day can be bad, and such is life. So if there is a connect, there is an understanding, and you trust the other person, that is, I would say, a key aspect to the transactions. Having said that, there are specialized funds, and Spain as a sector is growing and specializing more. So there are a few. In general, it's more inclined towards ICT, in softwares, and of late there are more funds. There are few deep tech funds, a few of them actually in Madrid, where we are interviewing today, and there are also in the past few years. Well, one has been even farther back, I can think of biotech funds, who have had international exits, invested internationally and done their exit internationally. So that is biotech industry, and investing is growing very well. So it is positive news for all of us. So it's more in generic, I would say, till now, but there are bit by bit I see there are more funds who are more specialized, right? So the focus still remains, the majority of the focus still remains software and what we call ICT.
Okay. And as an investor, what is the most important thing that a project must have to be suitable for investment?
That is a most important thing. It's a difficult question, right? So, and I would say here everybody, please understand, there is no right or wrong. I mean, like in life. So everybody has their point of view, and here I'm just putting in my point of view. For me, it's what at our fund in Nero we call it 3 T's: team, trust, and transparency. So all these 3 has to be there in the interactions you have in the daily operations of the company. I repeat, team, trust, and transparency. It's very easy to understand that, I mean, in both investor and on the entrepreneur side, we need to form a team. Yeah, so like I need to understand the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur needs to understand us. So it should be both sides. There are ups and downs. So in life, and so we need to understand each other, and we need to also demand objectives from each other, demand work from each other. So we are doing business here. In business, there has to be a transactional approach also, and trust. Our industry is quite chaotic, and it moves very fast. It has a frenetic speed, and in that speed, basic trust has to be there. We need to trust each other. So that bond of trust has to be created. So I shouldn't be hiding, or I shouldn't feel uncomfortable of, oh, should I reveal that information? So information sharing has to be there, and that I guess leads to the next stage, which is transparency. So all these 3 for us would be critical to look at a team, and next, or an opportunity. Okay, every team is linked to an opportunity, and next comes business model and scalability.
Okay, so maybe the next question is similar than the last one, but what is the most important thing that entrepreneurs should have so that an early stage fund like Nero Ventures will invest in it?
Yeah, it's, as you said, Rocio, it's quite similar to the previous question, and since all these viewpoints are subjective in nature, it's kind of the way, me being one of the partners of the fund, and the way we look at our investments. I would just identify one thing specific to us. We work very well in market niches. So you need to have a strong niche story. Let's say, I mean, there needs to be a strong need, and you need to cover that need. So we are not looking for we are not looking for the next Google or the next Facebook, or the Google killer, I would say, or the Facebook killer. And in the past, I have been presented projects like Facebook killer, and I have rejected it because it's hard, and I don't believe in that story. And again, it's my personal opinion. I would say we work very well with market niches.
Okay, and what does Nero Ventures contribute to its investments besides capital?
Yes, I mean, like I said, that it has to be a bi-directional relationship. So clearly, to start working or invest in good projects and work with good entrepreneurs, we have to, I would say we are a strong partner, one of the stronger partners an entrepreneur will have, or you will have by your side. We tend to stand through thick and thin of the company, and we are good. Many occasions from past experience, we are expert in, how to put it, we are expert to look for efficiencies in an unstructured environment. So I would say that when you get in a startup, we are in the early stage sector, so a startup is not an ideal company when you enter. So and things move very fast in the initial stages, so you need to act fast. So let me put it that we are expert in looking for inefficiencies and work with the entrepreneur to cover those inefficiencies even before the market gives you an alarm, or you make the market gives you or the clients come back to you, right? So with stage, I mean, the next stage would be business development. I mean, I have partners who are even more senior to me, and who have and after almost a decade in Spain, I have good business connect now. So we have started helping entrepreneurs actively in business development. So not just in Spain, but also outside Spain. Which is one of the key aspects in the initial stages of the company. So what you call in business matchmaking, right? So and the third would be in the last few transactions, two of our portfolio companies in Signaturit and in Exotica, we have played an important role in the international transaction. So these are the three areas I would like to highlight that we cover.
Okay, and what recommendations would you give to entrepreneurs who are watching this interview?
So here, Rocio, a fellow entrepreneur, says that I am the black hat, no? So black hat in the sense that I look for risks always. I have been an entrepreneur. I'm doing it for the past 5 years. I would say, and here I'll pass also the voice to Rocio, because she has been an entrepreneur. She has managed a family business, and here she's building something from scratch, the AI lab, which is not a very easy task. I accept that, and I would say entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard, and there are lots of ups and downs. Sometimes that we tend to be selfish. It makes us selfish because of our own, it brings out our own insecurities, our own fears, and the market is great, but it's brutal because you don't see the market, but it is there. So it's tough sometimes to accept the feedback of the market, and believe me, every mistake you make or every error you make, you have a feedback in the market, and it's immediate. But I guess that's the part we like the most. I mean, that makes us it's because it's a very engaging experience, and I am Indian, so I would say it's a very spicy experience. Either you like spice, it's a bit uncomforting in the beginning, but once you start liking spice, you can't do without it, you know. And I still have my ups and downs, and I have to accept that. But some things of late I have, in the last few years, in the initial years, I suffered a lot. It's not easy. Anybody who manages money and their own investments, it's not easy to manage other people's money, and I had a lot of ups and downs in the initial years, and now I'm getting better, but I'm not still there yet. But there is a phrase I would like to, it came to me, I learned, I read, I don't know where it came, but it gave me a lot of peace and tranquility, and it helps me to manage my own expectations. No? That I would say that there's nothing to lose and there's nothing to gain. And I really believe in this. I mean, there's nothing to lose. In what sense? If you do a project, you start with a project and it fails, that doesn't prove anything. You're not a failure. So there's nothing to lose, really. You still have your family, you still have the connect you make. If you've done it the way it should be done, if you have not cheated anybody, or if there's no malpractice in your actions, it's really, you come out of that with a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of contacts who might just support, I use the word might because there's no certainty in life, who might just support your next project. So there's nothing to lose. Please do not worry about failing. Failure is a part of our everyday life, and we fail every day in small instances, right? And then we rise up again, and there's nothing to gain. So in the sense that even if you make $1 million or mega million, there's nothing you prove to anyone. I mean, you have done very well. You have done very well. You have a success story, and but for your friends, for your family, you're still the same Rocio, you're still the same Anindya, you're still the same Paco or Andrew, so it doesn't really matter. After first 2 times, they'll say, "Oh, great, dude! Great, Rocio, you're very successful." And the next time they'll say, "Okay, let's chill down and have a nice glass of wine and talk about other things," right? So, like I said, there's nothing to lose, and there's nothing to gain. Rocio, what do you think? Your take on it?
No, always I say that I learned two mainly things, two important things of my entrepreneurships, and one thing is for me to be an entrepreneur is to manage the uncertainty and resolve problems every day.
Yeah.
And for me, it's that. And to have open your mind and a good and a positive attitude until the problems and until the days. And for me, it's very, 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 very important to be happy with your team and to have a good time with the people who are collaborating with you.
True.
I think that it's very important. So at this point, thank you very much, Anindya Saghan.
Thank you for inviting me.
We are going to close the meeting. Thank you very much for your participation and for your contributions. And in the few days, we will send you an email with a link so they can see the session again and another to download the presentation. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you.